Hi guys, today we're looking at economies of scale, and it's going to be a bit longer video because there's a lot to cover. But basically the economy of scales can be basically summarized as the more you do, the cheaper it is to do it, otherwise known as the law of proportions. And we're going to take a look at that, okay? And a lot of this, not everything, but a lot of it has to do with fixed costs versus variable costs. Fixed costs are the costs paid for having a business. For example, let's say you have a bakery. Well, you have to pay for rent every month, right? Even if you don't make or sell anything, you still have to pay for rent. And you have a cashier and a baker, you have to pay your salaries, right? So every month you have to pay these things. These are your fixed costs. And they're not related directly to whatever you're making, it's just stuff you have to do. Variable costs are costs directly related to production or your service. Again, for example, if you have a bakery and if you're making bread, your variable costs would be the water, the yeast, the sugar, the flour, the things you use to make your bread. And these two types of costs are really important because the fixed costs, generally speaking, don't change too much. The variable costs do. So what's it got to do with economy of scales? We'll take a look. Total variable costs equals variable cost times the quantity of units made. So your variable costs are how many pieces of bread or whatever you make times the price of making it. Your total cost is your fixed cost plus your total variable cost. So the costs you pay every month plus, the cost related to making whatever you make. Now this is where it comes important for economies of scale. The average cost per unit is your total cost divided by quantity. So we're going to take a look at this. So let's imagine you have a bakery that makes fancy apple donuts. Your fixed costs are $3,000 a month. That's rent and salaries. So every month you have to pay this. And your variable costs are $1, flour, sugar, and apples, $1 for each donut that you make, for each apple donut. So let's go take a look, shall we? If you make 2 donuts, okay, what are your fixed costs? Well, $3,000 because that doesn't change no matter how many donuts you make. Your total variable costs are your variable cost times quantity. Well, your variable cost is $1 and you're making 2, so your total variable cost is $2. So your total cost is fixed cost plus total variable cost. It's $3,000 plus $3,002. That's all your costs, which is low except you're only making 2 donuts. So your average cost would be total cost $3,002 divided by 2 donuts, $1,501. So your cost for that month for making 2 donuts is $1,500. That's a lot of money per donut. It's because you only made 2 donuts. So those 2 donuts have to pay for all the fixed costs, your rent and everything. But look what happens if you make 6,000 donuts. Well, your fixed cost stays the same. And your total variable cost goes up because now you have 6,000, right? So 6,000 times 1 is $6,000. So your total variable cost is $6,000. So your total cost is fixed cost plus variable cost is $9,000. Okay, that's more money, right? But you have more donuts. And you divide 9,000 by 6,000, the number of donuts, it costs you $1.50 to make each donut. So that's the main reason for economy of scales. The more you make, the more units you have that can pay for your fixed costs. It's spread over more things. But it's not just these variable costs. It's not just this, it's more. For example, let's take about your bakery, and let's say you're making bread. If you're a small bakery, maybe you have a small oven, and it's not very efficient. That means you have to pay more for energy per bread to make it. But if you have a bigger, more efficient oven, then you're paying less energy costs for baking your bread. So your costs are lower. And by the way, these are internal things related to your business, right? This is not outside. These are internal to your business. And there are other things that are internal to your business for economies of scale. For example, managerial. If you have a small little bakery, then you might have just one manager doing everything, doing the buying, the cooking, supervising the sales and everything else. But if you have a big bakery, maybe you have a person that's specialized in buying apples. So they know where to get good apples at a cheaper price. Well, since you have a specialized manager, you're getting a better deal on your apples, you're saving money. You couldn't do that if you're a small place because you can't have specialized people so much. Financial. Banks prefer big businesses. They'll give them cheaper loans because they feel it's less likely they're going to go bankrupt. So the bigger you are, the cheaper your loans are, generally speaking. Marketing. You can spend more money. oh, wait a second, how does marketing, spending more money means you're saving money? It's not that you're saving money, it's just cheaper. If you're a small little place, your advertisements are going to be small. It's going to be more expensive. But the net per person that sees your advertisement, imagine you're a big company. Okay, it costs millions of dollars to put an ad in the Super Bowl or in the FIFA World Cup, but how many hundreds of millions of people watch those ads? So the amount of money that you spend might be a lot, but the amount you spend per person to see your ad is less. That's because you have the money to back that up. Purchasing, you can beat down your suppliers. Let's go back to being a bakery. If you're a bakery and you go to a store or a provider, look, I need 10 kilos of apples. They're gonna say, okay, $2 a kilo. Can you give me a better deal? No, you're only buying 10 kilos. But if you go, look, I need 1,000 kilos of apples, they're gonna go, whoa, yeah, I can give you a good deal. Buy from me, don't go someplace else. I'll give you the apples for $1 a kilo. So if you're bigger, you can demand more discounts or you'll go someplace else. Lastly is risk bearing or hedging bets. If you have many things that you're making, producing, or many services, if something goes wrong, you're okay because you have the other things to back you up. For example, imagine if you're a bakery and you're only selling apple donuts. What happens if people all of a sudden get tired of apple donuts and you have nothing else to make? But if you have blueberry donuts and bread and cakes, then somebody will buy something that you have, right? That might be a stupid example. But you can see this in other ways, in other things. Think, for example, take Sony. Sony makes televisions, cameras, okay, cell phones, audio stuff. Sony realizes that sooner or later camera sales are going to go down. So what are they doing? They're making expensive camera featured cell phones so that when the camera sales go down, they have something else that they can sell. Samsung makes cell phones, audio equipment, ACs, fridges. If the economy goes down, people will buy less cell phones. They may not change so often, but people still need fridges. So if one business goes down, another one will be okay. That's the idea. The things we just looked at were internal factors for economy of scales, but there's also external factors, things that you can take advantage of that can help your company out a lot. And they're outside your company, not inside your company. For example, let's look at consumers. Let's say you have a company and you sell hats that have lights on them, for example, and you want to sell them online. You don't want a store. Well, you can make your own website, but how many people are going to go to your website? How many views are you going to get, even if you spend on advertising? Maybe not that much. But if you sell your hats on Amazon, well, Amazon is an outside company that has brought hundreds of millions of buyers into one website. So you have all those consumers there that might see your product. So you're taking advantage of that. You just have a bigger market. The same thing for shopping malls. Why do stores have stores in shopping malls? Because there's more people walking around. It's easier to get clients. So it's something that's bigger outside of yourself that allows you to get more clients, more consumers. And it's kind of the same thing with employees. If you had a company that wanted to go into software development, well, maybe you would go to India. There's a lot of computer programmers in India. Or Silicon Valley in California. There's a lot of programmers there. You might want to go to a place where you already have the employees that you can hire to do your job. Let me give you another example. Apple. Apple, generally speaking, doesn't produce things in the United States. It's not because Americans are more costly to hire. There just aren't any to hire. Apple needs a lot of engineers, and the United States doesn't have them. So that's why they have production in China, where there's lots of engineers. Now, that is economies of scale. In a second, we're going to go to diseconomy of scales, but first, a word from our sponsor.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to King Asher Institute. My name is Michael. I'd like to offer my services and help you prepare for GMATs, SATs, TOEFL, YELP, or for certificate exams that you may be taking to travel abroad.
Diseconomies of scale. Let's go back to our bakery. Remember in our bakery, our variable costs are $1 and our fixed costs were $3? And the average cost for making donuts, when we're making 6,000 of them, was $1.50. But what happens if you need a bigger place? Maybe you want to make more than 6,000 donuts, but your place can't handle it. Well, then you're going to want to rent a bigger place. If you take a look here, the fixed cost for your new bigger place is $4,000. But we can make more donuts. So let's take a look. Total variable cost for 7,000 donuts is $7,000. So the total cost now, because of the increase in fixed cost, is $11,000. Now we divide that by 7,000 because we have 7,000 donuts. The unit price for a donut is $1.57. It's higher than it used to be. Okay, so why would you get bigger if your costs are going to go up? Because then it's going to go down. If we do the same thing for 8,000 donuts, well, the fixed cost is still $4,000, but now we're back to an average cost of $1.50 per donut. And if we go to 9,000 donuts, which is something we couldn't do before when we had the smaller place, the average cost ends up being $1.40. So now you can even produce it cheaper. But for a little bit there, it is a bit more expensive while you adjust to producing more and more. And by the way, this kind of goes for everything we talked about before. For example, there's also diseconomy of scales for managerial, financial, marketing, and purchasing as well, and risk bearing. It kind of depends, because getting bigger is not always better. For example, managerial. Well, if you have an expert in buying apples for your bakery, he or she is probably not an expert in anything else. So you're losing efficiency there. You can't help other parts of your business. This is really important in financial institutions when they get big, because then managers tend to be out for themselves for number one, so they won't help other people in the company for the good of the company. They're out to help themselves. So that's why costs can go up a bit higher at diseconomy of scale if you get bigger. But it also depends on the business, right? Financial. Sometimes companies, when they get big, they just do stupid things. For example, if they have a lot of money, they don't know what to do with it. They start a project or buy something and then it doesn't work. Example would be Google. For example, they started off making a game system. They put hundreds of millions of dollars into it, and then they just canceled it. So there's lots of things like that. Marketing. The bigger you are, you can still do good marketing, but maybe you can make a big mistake. And make a huge mistake. For example, Pepsi many years ago had this promotion. For every Pepsi can you bought, you got some points, and then you could trade the points in for things. And if you didn't want to buy the can, or buy a can of Pepsi, you could just buy the points directly. So you get a hat, a shirt, something like that. But at the end of their commercials and their advertisements, and then for so many thousands of points, you can buy a fighter jet. Well, this person figured out that it wasn't that expensive, so they bought the points and then demanded their fighter jet, and then they couldn't get it, and then they had to pay the price of a fighter jet. So it was supposed to be a joke ad, but still, they had to pay it. So you can make marketing mistakes if you're much bigger. You can also make purchasing mistakes. Since it's cheaper to buy in bulk, sometimes you buy in bulk, and then what happens if all the stuff you bought goes out of fashion? You haven't been able to sell it, or it goes bad. I've actually had that problem once. I had a fruit and vegetable store. I bought a whole bunch of vegetables cheap because they're in bulk and they're a really good price, but I couldn't sell them fast enough and they all rotted. And then my store closed. And risk bearing. If you're in many businesses and you're not focused on one thing, something can go down and then your whole business goes down. Anyway, this is internal diseconomies of scale. But the one you really need to know, though, is that one there. Sorry, it was this one here. That's the main one you need to know. Sam here from IB Business Management Made Easy. I hope this video helped. If you want some more help, you can see my other videos, or click on the link, or contact me at the WhatsApp number. See you soon.